Hey YouTube, what's happening? This is Brian with Renegade Trucking, and this is the wrap up for the final week, fourth and final week at Suncoast Trucking Academy. And yeah, so it was 4 days, and then I'll have on Monday will be my final day. I'm not going to include that in this because we're pretty much done. So started off the week just like we always do, doing our pre-trip inspection. I had that third student finally quit, and that was actually nice because they were really holding up the class, and just there was no commitment from them, and it was, well, it doesn't really matter. Those things happen, and yeah, so went on, worked on our alley dock backing, did some road driving, and everything was going great for me. And or actually, I think I was a little concerned on the this was our first week in the new truck, and it took me a little bit to adapt, so I did have some concerns on Monday. And then next day was Tuesday. We started off, that was the day where it was super windy and it was raining, and the whole lot was flooded, and we were trying to do some alley dock backing. Things were going pretty good for me. Actually got to go out on the road, get some experience driving in the wind. That was awesome. And then we ended up closing the school, so that kind of sucked because missed we were there for 2.5 hours maybe, so missed a ton of practice time due to that. And so that was a little unfortunate, but came back the next day. I was doing so well on that Tuesday. I was back to feeling good. Come back Wednesday, and everything backing wise goes to crap again. It seemed like every time that we were flipping between the actual test course and then the practice range and then back and forth, every single time it was screwing me up. And I finally asked the instructor, I was like, these courses are the same dimensions, right? Because it feels totally different to me. And he's like, no, they're not the same dimensions. The actual test course is much larger. And so I'm like, oh, well, no wonder why, because I'm kind of driving it. I guess I was getting used to how the practice course was and when I needed to do all my timing, and I wasn't doing it based off of how I should have been watching, for the trailer and everything. So anyways, just had another pretty bad day on that Wednesday. And the driving was still fine. Driving the truck out on the road, I wasn't worried about that. I asked for feedback, and the instructor said that I was, as long as I don't do something ridiculous, I'm driving more than well enough to pass the road portion. So we just needed to, and actually, I felt like I was doing not well on the alley dock, but he was, letting us know what our points were and everything on it. And every time I was passing, just wasn't perfect. I was taking, I wouldn't hit anything. That's one good thing that I really do, is I stop before I hit anything. But I'd just be taking a lot of pull-ups because whenever I'm slightly off, I just have issues on the pull-up. I was just really getting conflicting information, even asking for clarification. I just wasn't fully understanding, or, well, like I said, I was getting conflicting responses back even after I would clarify exactly what I was just told. I'd get a conflicting response back. So it was just minor thing. And so I was having some issues on any of my resets when I was pulling up. So anyways, still within passing on the score and everything. Just wasn't where I wanted it to be. So finally on Thursday, which was our last day, we started off all morning. We were doing the alley docking on the test course, and just still really having a lot of problems, both of us, myself and the other student. And finally, the instructor had me back and told me, do not, under any circumstances, touch the clutch or the brake pedal. I just had to react to everything as I was going. And that finally pretty much fixed it, because what was happening was I was completely second guessing everything, because anytime that I'd get confused, I would stop and then I would start thinking through everything, and I'd start taking it, 2 or 3 feet at a time, just constantly overthinking all of it. And so by not allowing me to stop at all, by forcing me to go back in one continuous motion, I just had to, without thinking ahead or, trying to plan anything, I just had to move through and react to exactly what the trailer was doing. And I understood the point he was making to me, which is I wasn't dealing with the reality of exactly what the trailer was doing at that point in time. I'm trying to operate, like 10 feet down the road on it, and I have nowhere near enough experience to know how everything's going to react and where it's going to end up. So once I started doing that, things started clicking, and that was right as we were going to lunch. When we came back from lunch, he said, that we were going to keep Allie dock practicing until we both had it, and we weren't going home until we did. And so I pretty much got it dialed in from that point, and that really helped me. I mean, I'd still have a few issues here and there if I didn't nail it exactly the first time, but still well within passing score on it. And in real life, you get out and look as many times as you want. You're allowed as many pull-ups as you need, and also get quite a bit more experience, and everything's that will be one more difficult thing, is everything's going to be completely different. But I think that'll also kind of help a little bit, because I'm going to have all these different angles and everything. I think it'll just give me a broader understanding of how everything works. I also won't be popping back and forth in between different trucks and everything as well. And we also did offset backing and straight backing, simulated as if it were the exam, and I was perfectly fine on those. So I'll get through those. I'll have more than enough points on my alley dock. So there's a little concern, but not really. I'm confident that I'll be able to get through. And then what we did in the afternoon was we both of us got to go out and do like a simulated test, basically. I don't know if I'd call it that. Everything else that we were doing throughout the day was simulated, but because we're not allowed to know the course ahead of time or anything. And mine certainly wasn't the exam course, because he was letting me make choices on what roads I wanted to go on, and I knew there were some areas that I wanted to tighten up, get another opportunity on, and that actually led me into I had 2 issues. Everything else was good, but I did come across 2 issues right in the very beginning. I was decelerating at like a moderate pace, and the speedometer needle on this truck is electronically controlled, and it goes very smooth. And so the way that we're taught is we need to look at the speedometer to determine what gear we need to go in. Well, this doesn't match the exact speed that the truck is actually going because of the smoothing that it does on this. And so anyways, I had slowed down below the speed for 8th gear, but I was still, but it was showing that I was basically in the speed range for 8th gear. And so then, it grinds and won't go in, and I go to try and go for 7th. Meanwhile, I'm still kind of like slowing down, not understanding this about the speedometer, and I end up missing both of those. I finally get into 6th, but I've traveled more than the length of the tractor and trailer, so more than 70 feet without being in gear, and that's considered that you are not in control of the vehicle, and so that would have been an automatic failure had that been the exam. So I need to make very certain that I am slowing down well ahead of time for the exam, and that I I'm slowing down very slowly so that I'm able to know exactly what gear I need to put it in. And if I do get into that issue again, I simply need to just jam it directly into a gear, and transmission be damned, that's going to have to go into some gear, and so that I don't fail on that. But hopefully I don't get, it's very rare that this is happening to me, but it has happened occasionally, and it's just something that I need to be aware of. Just increasing my stopping distance, because that was another thing. I was, they wanted me, as I was progressing more and more, to wait later and later to start, braking. And anyways, just something to be aware of. But, so that I'm not too concerned about. But then I had this one turn that I had been having a lot of issues with. It was there's a railroad track, and then there's just enough outage to make this right-hand turn that has a concrete, like triangular median thing in it. And so it's very tight lane because you can't go up on the concrete lane. And then there's a bike path on this same lane, so you're not allowed to touch the white line. And so it is extremely tight and difficult. And each day, I think this was like my third attempt on it. In the previous two, I had touched that white line. And so anyways, this time I'm coming up to it, and I knew that my biggest thing was that I needed to go a lot slower through the turns, and I needed to focus solely on the turns. Well, I came up, there was a pickup truck in front of me, so I had to stop behind the railroad tracks, wait for it to be clear. Then I began pulling forward. It is enough of a distance that I went to go shift into fifth gear as I took off, because I was already at 1500 RPMs, and I realized as soon as I'm doing it that my nose, as I'm shifting, I'm not going to complete this shift before the nose is at the railroad tracks, and that would be considered shifting over the railroad tracks, which is another instant failure. So I'm glad that I did it then. I should have just simply idled in fourth gear. And, then, my other concern is then I'd get an automatic failure for impeding the flow of traffic if I'm not going fast enough. Now, I think they're a little bit more lenient on test day on this kind of stuff, but I think I was doing well enough on some of the stuff that I was kind of being nitpicked for a few things, and that's not a complaint whatsoever. I certainly want to improve as much as I can. But I was so focused on that turn that I knew as soon as I was doing it that it was shifting on the railroad tracks, and that had it been the exam, that would have been an automatic failure. So I'm glad I did it then. So now I will not do that, but yeah, everything else is looking good. Just a little bit of nervousness about the alley dock, and then just something weird, me doing something, or something out of my control, like some four-wheeler flying out in front of me, and those are my only real concerns. But I'm feeling pretty good. I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to pass it on my first try, and I really need to. So anyways, I'm scheduled at 8 a.m. on the 28th, I believe it is, whatever Tuesday is. Yeah, that's the 28th. So I'll be doing it then, and I'm trying to study this weekend for my hazmat and tanker endorsements. I don't know if I'm going to do all that on that same Tuesday, or if I'm going to head to the DMV the following day, or the tax collector's office. But yeah, I'm planning on getting my hazmat and tanker endorsements this week when I get my CDL. So anyways, Yeah, they told us that we actually don't need to show up Monday, but you know, the other guy and myself definitely wanted to go and get that, especially with us losing Tuesday. We certainly want that extra practice time, and it would be nice just to have, you know, one day of a refresher before the exam, you know, the day before the exam. So anyways, we're certainly going to be there, and you know, they were kind of seemed like they didn't really want us to show up, but hey man, I'm there for the whole thing. I already lost enough practice time, and you know, especially with how held up we were, which I'll do a full review and everything. I will say that I believe that is pretty much, that was kind of isolated just to my class, because I see other classes out there and they're already practicing on the test course on their second week. They've already been alley docking, you know, and so it's, I think that was really limited to just how far behind some of the individuals in my class were, and how they just simply did not progress or put in effort. So anyways, that's pretty much that. I will do on Monday, I think I'm going to do a video on, you know, just how I'm feeling the day before the exam, and then obviously I do a follow-up after that, and then like a full review on the school and everything like that. But thanks for watching the whole journey. I hope this has been beneficial to you if you're going to Suncoast Trucking Academy, or if you're going to some other school, that this has been enough information there for you. But yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. Stay safe.